But I think the other thing you mentioned is we had all these people working from home, and we've got data everywhere. We've also got, I think, risk spread because we've got people working from home. We've got people working in environments which, if they were inside an office, those environments would not be workplace safe. So how does that affect us as business owners if we've got people working from home or working from different locations?
You could have a whole hour subject on that. But so when COVID first hit and before the mandatory lockdown, businesses needed to adapt and think, how can we continue to survive? So they bought, as Luke was saying, a whole lot of hardware, a whole lot of enhanced their networking capabilities so they could all access the service. And that, it was a quick fix. It was like, right, phew, we're still back in business even though we're operating with home, irrespective of the fact there's kids running around and your home is not a safe work environment compared to an office. An office is controlled from, I'm thinking, work health safety point of view now. There's no kids, dogs, whatever, running around causing all sorts of grief. And also, there is an increased risk from working from home for an employer with the staff. And the workers in New South Wales, the iCare, recognised that. They understood and they weren't being too punitive about the controls that needed to be in place as a result of that increased risk. So so what then businesses evolved, having to deal with the whole lockdown issue, to now it's very standard for people to be hybrid working. So they have both a home office and a work office. And so you've got duplicated resources of the hardware, but then the evolution needs to take place for the business to say, well, let's now focus on our actual security. So how are my employees from home accessing our service? And then it becomes down to the security on the actual modems and routers at home, because if they're weak, then people are accessing the home networks to access corporate systems. I've actually heard of a story of an IT guy who was brave enough to tell me this story from a major networking group. He has a sick cat, and the cat needed to drink water regularly. So he bought one of these water fountains, which every half hour sprints up water, the cat gets interested and has a drink, right? But it's connected through an app, through his router that he can remotely monitor on his app at home. Well, he thought, this is great, my cat will be able to drink water. People hacked into his home network where he has a lot of corporate private information through the drinking fountain. And he hadn't segregated the drinking fountain to a separate part of the network. It physically can be done, but he hadn't thought that far. So as something as simple, we all have pools that are remotely monitored, air conditioning, light bulbs, air conditioners, all great. Solar systems, this is great. We can all look at talk about it at the pub. That's what blokes do with solar apps. But it's an exposure to that employee's system which accesses corporate systems. And once you access the corporate system, you've got this weakness which is exposed, which is a corporate responsibility, not the individual's responsibility. So it's evolved from, great, quick fix, we can still work, through to now, hybrid's here to stay. So corporately, you've got to think, how am I going to still provide the same level of security that we do in a contained, quarantined business environment back at home? And that's why you talk to this guy.
Look, just to add to that, there's two parts to that. There's the Internet of Things, which is these devices that now connect to the internet to allow you to, you can turn on your air conditioning 2 hours before you get home so the house is nice and toasty, right? And there's BYOD. Now, as an IT professional, I really dislike BYOD. Bring your own device. Yeah. The concept is great in theory, but is a massive grey area. And that grey area is you as a business owner, have an obligation to protect your data for your business. You're then saying to someone, you can use your personal device to access the company data. But they have a right as the owner of that device to use that device for whatever they want. So you go along and you put corporate virus protection or web filtering on their personal device because you want to protect your data. They then decide that they want to go to an inappropriate website, which they have every right to do so. They can't. You now have a conflict. Or you don't have that protection on there and their personal device gets hacked. They've now got access to your work data. So I can't stress how important it is to issue company equipment